Relationship between the two countries have only worsened. In fact, last week as well, Prime Minister Trudeau underlined that a fight with India was not something that Canada wanted, especially right now, but added that Ottawa wants to, quote, work constructively with New Delhi on this very serious matter. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who's on a 5-day trip to the UK, has once again set the record straight on allegations levelled on India. Jaishankar has said that he has still not seen any evidence related to the case and again asked Canada to share any proof of information they have. He has also added that India have not ruled out an investigation into the matter provided that proof or information comes to them. Even in September, India had rejected Trudeau's allegations and had termed the charges absurd and motivated. The diplomatic standoff is only one element of this. The other big issue is the treatment of Indian diplomats in Canada, threats against them and Indian missions, and the growing anti-India extremism masked under separatism or a movement of sorts, but descending into utter violence against peace-loving Hindu or Indian community at times. All issues that India have raised, but despite the trouble at home, Canada has failed to rein in such elements. So there is a lot of sound and fury by Canada on India on these supposed credible allegations. But is there any action on the rising extremism against India? We'll take that question to our guests in just a bit. But first, take a look at some of the recent incidents where Indians have been targeted by Khalistani goons. Well, Khalistani is one way to call them, but of course, for Canada, they're actually becoming a law and order problem. But Canada is, turning a blind eye. Here's those visuals, very, very provocative, very, very sensitive and actually shocking visuals that came out of Brampton, where Hindus who were celebrating Diwali were openly attacked. These people who were attacking them were holding Khalistani flags. They pelted stones at the Diwali celebrations and also hurled abuses at Hindus there. Surprisingly, cops were on the scene, but they failed to really take any stern action in this case. We haven't seen any action posted as well. Fair enough to say that they were mute spectators, or actually they were allowing these people openly taking law and order into their hands a free rein. Just 2 days later, on November 14, some new videos emerged from Abbotsford. Here, the SFJ, Seeks for Justice goons, disrupted an Indian consulate event where life certificates were issued to a few community members. These K goons also targeted a local Sikh family because they attempted to pick up an Indian flag from the ground which was being disrespected by these goons. It's really mob behavior, goonish behavior at display. And now again, Seeks for Justice group has threatened to disrupt an upcoming event in Brampton and Mississauga if they are not called off. A poster has also been released, as has become their style, openly threatening violence against Indian diplomats, against Indian community, in fact even plane bombings or other kind of bombings in India on Indian soil. They're saying that India is trying to build a spy network in Canada through these life certificate camps, and they have an image of the slain K terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar as well, and they're calling India his killer. Now, Indian External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has not held back throughout this altercation, reminding Canada and the world again and again of the ill treatment to its diplomats and more that is taking place in Canada. So he's repeated his take on the situation in the UK. First up, he reminded everyone that Canada has continued to give more and more space to violent and extreme political opinions, that a lot of these are targeted against India, that they advocate separatism from India, but through violent means as well. And we've all seen those threats coming in from these groups. That Canada has not acted when Indian High Commission or diplomats were being attacked, and more such attacks are now being emboldened. On the Nijjar case specifically, he again said that we have not seen any evidence in this matter, but added that Nijjar's social media posts are graphic and that he held public positions. Another reminder that such elements have not just been accommodated, but actually been given full platform in Canada in public view. Here's a reminder of what Justin Trudeau had said in public over their allegations after a lull, in which it seemed Canada would now ensure that they will take this up in a more subtle way, maybe behind closed doors, but it seems like they're continuing to provoke India in public. So this statement by Justin Trudeau was made just 3 days ago. He went on to say that there are credible allegations that India is involved in Canadian citizens' killing, that we reached out to India and asked them to work with us. They want cooperation from India. That there is a serious violation of international law and sovereignty of a democracy because of this alleged killing at the hands of India, and that Canada will always stand up for rule of law. So they're playing that moral card, and they're also kind of imploring the world. In this statement, Justin Trudeau also mentioned how they also spoke to allies of India, their allies and Indian allies, about this case, and wanted the world to take notice because it sets, according to him, a dangerous precedent if law is violated without any consequences by big countries. The fundamental question we ask though today is this: while Canada continues to pursue this case, and Indian External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is saying that we haven't really seen anything concrete coming in from Canada. One, how seriously should India take these allegations? But secondly, and most importantly, why is there rising extremism against India in Canada, and what are the guarantees that the Canadian government is willing to give us on that? We'll take that forward with our guests in just a bit.
We have tried to work constructively and positively with India, and we will continue to. This is not a fight we want to be having right now.
Canadian politics has given space to violent and extreme political opinions, advocate separatism from India, including through violent means.
Hello, Moto.
Let's go across to our guests, our experts joining us. Ashok Sajjanhar is a former Indian diplomat. Ramneek Singh Maan is an activist, knows a thing or two about the Khalistani movement, both the ones that they try in Punjab and also overseas. Colonel S. Dinny is an army veteran joining us, and also Terry Miluski, author, Blood for Blood, 50 years of the Global Khalistan Project, based in Canada and an expert of the Khalistani movement in Canada. I do thank you all for your time. Terry, let me begin with you. Before I get to the extremism and the rise of these tensions, especially the pro-Khalistani sections that are continuing to provoke both residents and citizens of Canada, and of course India sitting there, what do you make of this reiteration of the allegation, the credible allegation by Justin Trudeau, and the response that Indian External Affairs Minister has made? This whole Nijjar episode doesn't seem to be going anywhere, because both sides are very clear and very stuck in the line that they have taken.
Well, it's not going anywhere, is it, until Canada produces the evidence that it allegedly has. Yeah. We're in an absurd situation. There isn't any way out as long as Canada does not produce the evidence, and I mean publicly. I am not going to listen anymore to the excuses given by the Canadian government that, oh, well, we don't want to give away our sources and methods. Sorry, that horse is already out of the barn. I mean, we already know they've been bugging diplomats. This is not amazing for any diplomat. It's not a big surprise, but of course, that's one of the methods that the Five Eyes and other intelligence agencies routinely use. It's not a surprise. I don't know why we don't just, we've already admitted that. Well, there are Canadian leaks saying, we've got signals intelligence, or SIGINT as they call it, showing that there was some sort of official Indian involvement in this murder. So until Canada produces that evidence for the world to see, nobody's going to believe it.
So you back the Indian position, where the Indian External Affairs Minister is repeatedly, publicly saying, show us the evidence and we're going to do something about it if we deem fit. He's also saying this for public consumption.
I disagree with the Indian position in this sense, that I don't accept that the Canadians have produced no evidence. They said that for weeks before the G20 summit in New Delhi, and before the meeting between the two prime ministers, they said that for weeks that they quietly did approach the Indians and say, look, we've got this evidence, can you help us sort this out? Not accusing the Indian government of official involvement necessarily, but giving them some details of what we had picked up and asking for Indian assistance. Presumably there was somebody in Indian jurisdiction, not in Canadian jurisdiction, who we wanted to interview and so forth to solve the case. So that's the Canadian position. I take no position on who's lying, who isn't lying, but we'll know the truth, won't we, if Canada puts its cards on the table. And there's no excuse for this. The other excuse being offered is that, well, we don't want to prejudice a future trial. Well, we've already done that. The Prime Minister's got up on his feet in the House of Commons and has declared the outcome of the investigation, has he not? He's pointed the finger at India, said they're guilty. So, I mean, it's a little late now to be complaining that, oh, well, we don't want to prejudice a future trial, so we can't reveal the evidence.
So he's put the cart in front of the horse and then wanting things to work smoothly, which is not going to happen. I get your point, but Ashok Sajjantar, I want to take what Terry said further with you. Could it be that if we were to take both sides on their face value, that the definition of what is a credible allegation, first of all, is so vague? That the terminology in itself has become, meme-worthy. But maybe Indian and Canadian side do not agree on what constitutes as evidence. So while Canada maintains, and I'm sure the Canadian Prime Minister is choosing his words very carefully when he says credible allegations, the Indian External Affairs Minister is repeatedly saying, show us evidence. I'm sure the words mean something here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shivani. I agree with you. I think credible allegations is an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. If it's an allegation, it's an allegation. There cannot be any credibility because there can be 100 allegations. What you really are looking at is evidence. And I think in any court of law, it is basically evidence that matters. So the first point here is that even the Canadian side, even Mr. Trudeau, does not think what he has amounts to any evidence. He himself, if he was convinced that, what I have in my hand, it is conclusive, it is very damning, it is very strong, he would have said it is evidence. He himself has used the term allegation. That means, allegations can come to you from 10 sources. So are you going to sort of, put all those allegations together? I think allegations, maybe he could have a look at, some of the dictionary, Collins Dictionary, and understand from there. And I think in any democracy, allegations don't stand the test of law. If you have to think to any court of law. And I think, the last point I want to make here, Shivani, is that it is very disturbing that murder took place on the 18th of June. Justin Trudeau made this charge on the 18th of September. Today we are on the 17th of November. I think it's 5 months and 2 months since Trudeau made this allegation, and still he has not been able to come up with anything at all. He has not been able to come up with any evidence whatsoever. And the Indian External Affairs Minister has said it in so many words that it is, if there was anything specific,
then we would act on it.
Relevant that was provided to it, we would definitely take a look at it. So we have. So basically,
without saying as much, Terry, I just want a quick comment from you again on this, because you said that you do believe that Canada presented something, but I think there is a difference of opinion on the weight of what Canada has presented, because the Indian External Affairs Minister at one point had accepted that yes, they touched upon this issue with the Indian counterparts earlier, behind closed doors, before this public allegation was made, or on the sidelines of the G20, but they don't believe that this is evidence. So they're insisting you give us evidence for us to act upon.
Yes, that's the problem, is that there's a difference in interpretation of what this evidence means. To the Indians, it means that, well, maybe they got a phone call, they got a wiretap where some guy that had something to do with the Indian government says, yeah, we got that guy. Well, that's subject to interpretation, is it not? That could mean that he's in the bleachers, he's watching the game, and he's cheering the fact that our side's scored a goal. Or it could mean that he's one of the players on the field, and he was actually involved in scoring that goal. Now, to the Indians, they may say that, well, the Canadian so-called evidence doesn't mean what the Canadians think it does. And the Canadians may say, well, yeah, well, okay, if you can make those excuses, but look at what we've got here.
But they're not using the term evidence either, Terry. That's the most telling part. Justin Trudeau is not using the term evidence.
Indeed, and there is a weakness there, and that is why I say until the Canadian side resolves this by coming clean with, either they produce the goods or they don't.
Yeah.
People are not going to buy this. They start, Trudeau doesn't have anymore a reservoir of strong public support that is going to carry him through this without producing evidence. He's low in the polls, and it's just not going to work.
Okay.
He has to produce the goods.
Okay, let me also go across to Ramneek Man. The other big issue is that they keep raising this Niger issue, but they're not actually addressing the underlying factor behind who this Niger fellow was, what his videos are telling us, what his actions in Canada on Canadian soil are telling us, and what several other groups' actions are telling us. Most recently, such a public attack on Hindus celebrating Diwali in Canada, and nothing happens. Why don't you address that issue? Then people will take you seriously.
Okay, good evening, Shivani, and good evening to all the fellow panelists. Yes, there has been a problem, and the problem is not with Justin Trudeau alone, but it has been systematic over the years. I would tell you for a fact that the Canadians have not filed a complaint, not less, filed a case. There has been no investigation, serious investigation, if I may. There has been no trial, there has been no prosecution, and there has been no punishment. So, in a sense, the government of Canada, the legal justice system of Canada, has been encouraging such acts of violence and crime against Indian origin, people of Indian origin, which include Hindus and Sikhs both equally.
Both, yes.
Yes. I mean, they have been vandalizing the temples, but they have also been attacking Sikhs who have spoken or stood for India. Indian flag in that country with these elements is something, they really need to take seriously. As a matter of fact, if you go a step further, we have diplomats with us here and they will agree that diplomacy is based on mutual reciprocity. So when, let us say, Melanie Jolie says that we need to discuss diplomacy in private. We need to discuss diplomacy in private, and their Prime Minister stands on the floor of the Parliament in the House of Commons and he makes credible allegations which have not been substantiated by any credible evidence. Now, if they have anything on their hands, they should come out with it. And in the meanwhile, what the Canadian legal justice system should do is, they should now look back in time and see that, were they able to punish anybody for the Kanishka bombing? No, they could not. In time, the government of India then had asked for, sending Talvinder Parmar, the prime accused, back to India. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. So the legal justice system, when they talk about the rule of law is not existing in a first world country. They like to believe I personally somehow feel, I'm sorry, Mr. Miliski, it's not for you, but it is for Justin Trudeau. He suffers with a white man syndrome. He thinks he's superior. He's going to come out with something, and all the, Western countries, 5 countries will support him. That's not going to happen. And India is not the only country he has a diplomatic crisis with. He has a crisis now running with Israel. So they now need to wake up and smell their coffee. They need to take action against these people who are vandalizing temples, who are disrupting Indians, who are trying to defame and who are trying to, deface the Indian flag. So
absolutely.
Unless that happens,
these are actions that will not
Shivani,
be...
10 more seconds.
Yeah.
Shivani, 10 more seconds. Unless that happens, that they show their seriousness, I would, like to believe that Canada is quickly becoming the Pakistan of West. That's what Canada is becoming.
Well, the Indian External Affairs Minister has quoted both Canada and Pakistan in the same breath, and he has continued to harp on that point, that extremism and violent means of whatever movement that you may try to garb under freedom of speech or freedom of protest is not going to go down very well in India. And Terry, would you like to respond to what Ramneek Man said about the white man syndrome, that we come out and say, and you'll have to just trust us? Also, the fact that this age of trying to play these cards of separatism and these groups working from your soil against India, that's not going to work in today's day and age against this India. Times change. They have to reevaluate.
Well, he's right in this sense that the Canadian justice system certainly did fail in the Kanishka bombing. It was a disaster. I had a front row seat. I sat through the whole trial, the whole inquiry, and it was a farce in many respects. The Indian side is completely correct about that. However, It's not true to say that nobody was punished, by the way. This just may seem like a small detail, but the bomb maker in that case was indeed convicted 3 times and was sentenced to a total of 34 years in prison, actually served about almost 29 years. It may seem like a detail, a small thing, but not to him, I bet. But the question still remains, though, why is Canada not making its evidence public? Because all of this would go away, wouldn't it? If the Canadians laid their cards on the table, as they say they did at the official level prior to the G20 summit when Trudeau and Modi met. If they laid those cards on the table, then we wouldn't be having this problem.
Okay.
And either
But
it
that
would be
only-
credible or it would be not. And
that
it'd be
only tackles
perfectly
one
possible.
part of the problem. I fundamentally feel that that is only one side of the problem. The other side is the bigger problem for India, which is the
Yes.
repeated provocations against Indian missions, Indian flag, Indian diplomats, and the
Absolutely.
Indian community in Canada. Something needs to be done about that too.
And for 40 years, Canada has been looking the other way. And yes, for 20 years I've been saying, look, there's a scent of racism here, and the indifference which Canada displayed to the victims and the victims' families of the Kanishka bombing. There's no way around it. I mean, you can well imagine that the investigation by the police might have been much more energetic if it had been otherwise, and it was a plane load
Absolutely.
of nice ladies, white ladies from Toronto. There's no way around that. But the fact remains that the murder and intimidation of witnesses was successful. It wasn't all because the Canadian government failed. It was because of the aggressive tactics, the murderous tactics of the culprits.
You know, there are these gangs that exist. Colonel Denny, nobody can deny that. These gangs are associated with a lot of crimes that are taking place in many cities in Canada. And the fact that, you know, Canada is not acting on that, which is what is fundamentally their problem, but instead is wanting to link India to it. On top of that, any transgressions, any provocations and violence against Indians or those of Indian origin or on Indian missions and diplomats is going completely unacted upon. Certainly, India is not going to take that lying down.
Well, absolutely. I don't think India is going to take that lying down, because we already have paid heavy prices in the past for taking all these things lightly. We have lost prime ministers. We on a daily basis we are fighting terrorism across multiple states in our country. So we know what is terrorism, what is these kind of organized crimes, what can they lead to, and what is the price which we pay, like what happened in Mumbai. Everybody knows. So definitely whatever is happening in Canada, I'm sure the government is looking at it very seriously. The agencies are looking at it very seriously, because the only saving grace is that Canada is quite far from India. Like what happens with like unlike in Pakistan, which is just nearby, the only saving grace is that Canada is quite far from India. Otherwise, like what Minister Jaishankar said, there are very stark similarities between what both countries are doing as far as harboring terrorists or this extremism is concerned. And
now,
especially
Colonel Denny, we know that there are some political considerations that Justin Trudeau has because of the support he gets from the likes of Jagmeet Singh and so on, who are rabidly anti-India. They're trying to drive a wedge between the Hindu and the Sikh community repeatedly in Canada. And of course, their messaging in today's day and world comes to India as well. But why do you think Canada, beyond that, is going down this path? Because it is souring its relationship with India. It has not been able to garner any support on this front and otherwise across its own allies or the joint allies of both of these countries. And actually, it is becoming a laughing stock on the global stage, because surely any government, despite political considerations, will have a larger view of how if you breed snakes in your backyard, to quote the famous saying, they will bite you eventually.
Ma'am, what I feel is that Canadians, by and large, not unlike Mr. Terry and all, and Mr. Trudeau in particular, are prisoners of their own image. You know, they want to project an image that they are the people who are the most liberal, most progressive, freedom of expression, and whatnot. That is the kind of image they want to project, and that's the image they want to protect. So while doing that, they are not seeing what is happening in their backyard. As you rightly mentioned, the snakes are there in their backyard. We have seen what is happening in Pakistan. Today, every bomb which is being blasted in Pakistan is result of their own doing. Similarly, Canada is just a time bomb which is ticking. And as I said, we have the a geography as a rescue here. But Canada cannot ever think that they can do this and the fire will not affect them inside Canada. This is the problem of being a prisoner of their own image. I think Mr. Ramnik also mentioned this kind of thing, that the earlier they come. Today I was seeing an image of Mr. Trudeau being booed from a restaurant of some protesters wanting ceasefire in Gaza and such like things. So this is the kind of state which, unfortunately, a country like Canada, which we all hold very dearly as a friend once upon a time, and even now, we don't consider it as an enemy nation or something, but then still there are serious concerns within India as far as the activities which has been carried out unabashedly. I don't think that such activities like open threat is given even in Pakistan, for that matter. We have been years. We have. I think Mr. Ashok is here. Sir is here. He knows that diplomats are not threatened in such a manner even in Pakistan.
Even in Pakistan, that's an important point you make. That actually things are going down a very slippery slope and very fast in Canada, and no form of political ideology can cover up the fact that you had openly a huge mob attacking peaceful Diwali celebrators. The fact that there was stone pelting taking place, open goon activities, intimidation that is taking place. For what reason? No amount of separatism movement, justified or otherwise, can justify these actions. Ashok Sajjanhar, what do you think India will continue to do in this case, purely diplomatically speaking?
I think India will continue to push back against Canada, because, we would have hoped that good sense will prevail. As Colonel Denny has very rightly said, and Shivani, you also very rightly said, basically, if you're talking about protecting the rule of law, then the first rule of law is providing protection to diplomats that are accredited to your country. That's your responsibility under the Vienna Convention. You have signed the Vienna Convention. And is this the sort of protection that you're providing? You are sort of, getting posters made, and it's not only my ambassador, my consul general, etc., who are being put on their protest. This is very, very, intimidating. How can they even go out of their homes? And, the fact that we decided to do away with, at least suspend the issuance of visas for some time, till adequate protection and security is provided to these people. So, to come back to your question, I think India will have to continue to push back against this, because, as again, Mr. Jaishankar has said, India does not engage itself with activities. India is a responsible power. It's a responsible.
Ashok Sajjanhar, unfortunately, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with your line, but I think we got your point. Ramnik Mahan, I want to give you a few final seconds as well. Look at what happened during those Diwali celebrations. Look at what's happening with the Indian flag, Indian missions, Indian diplomats. This is a problem. And this is a problem that India needs to wake up to. What we are seeing, for example, even what happened during the Leicester clashes or attack on the Hindu community there, Hindus are being maybe cornered in some senses. A wedge is being driven between them and other communities of Indian origin, if not of completely different origins. And it all seems to be somehow coming from this hatred for India, that that Hindus are fair game to attack in any of these countries if you have an agenda against India. And unfortunately, a lot of these countries, friends of India, are turning a blind eye when this happens.
Well, Shivani, see, this is bound to happen, and for the most part, it is the Canadians who have to act and do something about it, because they have given asylum, they have given citizenship, they have given permanent residencies to most wanted people in India. They are into the business of illicit drug trade, they are into women trafficking, they are into extortion, they are into targeted killing. They are into all sorts of vices in the world. And these people are wanted people from India who have been designated as, respected citizens of that country. Now, it is for Canada to act upon And when you talk about mutual understanding, India and Canada have a MLAT between us. That's a mutual legal assistance treaty. So we have shared enough evidence, credible evidence, against these people who are now considered as respectable citizens of Canada. They have to be handed over back to India to face trial for the crimes they have committed. Look at how bluntly Goldie Brar and others own up, crimes being committed in India. You have gangsters, war criminals. You have all sorts of people in your country that you've given asylum and you've given them protection.
Yeah, I feel like this tactic against India, absolutely, this tactic against India is not going to work beyond a certain point. But there is a concern where Indian communities or Indian origin communities are being attacked blatantly, and the law enforcement in these first world countries just don't seem to act. Either they don't want to get into it, or they just don't want to stick their neck out and say this is not done in my country. And then you can maybe talk on the, at the same level with India and bring India to the table. But if these provocations keep taking place, I don't know how Canada can expect that India will be willing to make any leeway for them or do anything that makes them feel better. Very quickly,
Canada
sir.
has deteriorated beyond Pakistan in many ways. In many ways.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. On those ominous signs, I'll leave it at that. Maybe a lot for Canada to worry about. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Certainly, the Indian External Affairs Minister is not backing down from talking straight on this issue. We'll slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get to the other big issue that we've been debating over the last 2 weeks. That's Delhi's air that continues to deteriorate. Farm fires, after a brief blip, are actually now rising again in Punjab. This is despite an SC rap only a few days ago. So is this willful defiance of Supreme Court orders or not? We'll take that on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
After the relief that people of the national capital got just a few days ago after light spells of rains had engulfed the national capital, which meant that the AQI had come down significantly and was hovering in the poor category. Now post Diwali, we are seeing that the AQI has again deteriorated. Currently, I am reporting from Kartavya and just move to the frame and try and show you in the visuals over here that another layer of smog has yet again engulfed the national capital. But remember, this is not only smog, but what experts are saying that there is element of fog that is also in these visuals that you are seeing on your screens right now. So yes, the AQI has deteriorated after Diwali, but remember the AQI was already in the severe category at least 2 to 3 days ago, and today as well the AQI is still hovering within the very poor to poor category, but yet it is still very difficult for people to breathe out here. Remember the manner in which the Supreme Court orders of not bursting any sort of crackers was flouted yesterday. There were several cases that were seen out here in the national capital where this order of the Supreme Court of not bursting any sort of cracker was definitely flouted. In fact, the fire department itself had got more than 100 calls till 10 p.m. itself. So it actually shows that the people of the national capital, in fact, the majority of the people of the national capital were actually not bursting crackers, but yes, there was a significant number who were seen flouting these norms and bursting crackers, because of which we are seeing that the AQI has yet again deteriorated out here in the national capital and is yet again in the very poor category. Now today, the prediction from the IMD is that once the sun is out, the wind speeds are likely to pick up and these pollutants would yet again be washed away. And that is the only silver lining for the people out here in the national capital. But remember, over the next few days as well, the AQI is likely to remain in the poor to very poor category, and in fact is likely to deteriorate yet again in the severe category as well because of the wind directions. Now what remains to be seen is to what new plans can the Delhi government and the Delhi administration make sure that they initially make, and make sure that is implemented on the ground to the T, so that some sort of immediate relief can be provided to the people out here in the national capital who have been suffering from this deteriorating air quality for at least the last 10 days. Currently, I am reporting from the pollution hotspot out here in the national capital, that is the Anand Vihar bus terminal, and if I could just show you in the visuals.
Welcome back. It's been 4 days since Diwali has come and gone, and Delhi's air quality continues to be in the severe to hazardous category. Now, there's been an attempt to blame all of it on Diwali as if it didn't happen before Diwali and as if it's not continuing after Diwali, and as if we have not seen this pattern play out over the last 8 years when we know why this situation happens this season of the year in Delhi. The main reason this time is again stubble burning. This has been something that the Supreme Court itself has talked about and has rapped both Delhi and Punjab governments on. In fact, farm fire cases have been on a rise precisely from Diwali day, from Diwali evening. Over 2,500 cases were registered on Wednesday only in Punjab, only in one state again. Aam Aadmi Party and the Bharatiya Janata Party in Delhi are engaged in a political battle, while the BJP has slammed Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party for failing to put a halt on farm fires in Punjab and instead tried to shift the blame on Diwali for pollution. The Aam Aadmi Party on the other side has put the onus on Delhi police as far as compliance is concerned on crackers, and in Haryana and in Uttar Pradesh, which are under the BJP's control. But let's take a look at the farm fires pattern. Not only the fact that the farm fires are happening, but actually the pattern of these farm fires in Punjab is very revealing this season. So from the highs of about 3,500 this season, it came down to 609, 639, 927. These are the days right after the first rap from the Supreme Court. The first reprimand to Delhi and Punjab governments and the order to stop farm fires immediately, making local administration also responsible for them. So there was a brief blip which raises the question as to why or how this was possible and how this was not possible before the Supreme Court intervened. And then you look at the pattern from November 12th, which was Diwali day, the farm fires are rising once again and consistently, to the extent that they've now touched over 2,500 on November 15 one more time. So if you look at the season total as well, it's now 30,000. So actually it's comparable to the previous 2 years. So even the claims that were being made that there's been 30, 40, 50% reduction is actually not working out, certainly not as far as this season is concerned. Only the time period and the dates have changed, not really the figures and the total figures. Here's a reminder of what the Supreme Court had said while rapping both Delhi and Punjab governments over this issue and the politicking over this issue on its first hearing on November 7th. So it had said that Delhi cannot be made to go through this year after year. Farm fires are a major contributor as far as the pollution in Delhi NCR is concerned. It also went on to say that we don't seem to find any solution year after year. It's a helplessness on behalf of the citizens that the Supreme Court really voiced. That large number of kids in Delhi are facing health issues because of this. It's an emergency and a health emergency. And that Delhi used to blame Punjab earlier, but now due to political sink, they don't blame Punjab, they blame Haryana instead. So farm fires on the rise once again, is it not? Plain and simple, forget everything else, willful defiance of the Supreme Court orders. Let's go across to our guest joining us, RP Singh, BJP's national spokesperson with us. Deviditya Sinha is an environmentalist. Abhinandita Mathur is Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson also with us. Abhinandita, let me begin with you. What explains this pattern that after a brief blip, the farm fires are rising and very scarily, alarmingly in Punjab again, to the extent that they touched 2,500 plus on November 15?
As far as the farm fires are concerned, it is definitely a very critical thing that impacts the region and impacts the farmers of Punjab as well. What happens typically, as far as I understand this, is that, in this duration, there is a sort of compulsion on the farmers, and obviously they may pick and choose different days for this to happen, and that is primarily the problem. That once the harvest is ready, once the parali is burning starts to happen, that is when rapidly it increases, and that happens for a period of between say 10 days to a month, and that is the time when the region is impacted by the farm fires in Punjab and other states as well. So I think that is primarily the reason, and we are hopeful that by next year we would have been able to actually find a sustainable solution to it. like I said last time, that we've managed to reduce it by 50%. It's still not good enough. We are seeing this ourselves.
Is it true though? Is the 50% mark true? Because last 2 years there were about farm fires this season, this period of the crop change. The farm fires about 28,000, 29,000. This season it's already 30,000. So what reduction have we seen?
The way actually these farm fires are being calculated, so to speak, is that the average of last year, look, there was a bigger region that was covered. The intensity of the farm fires was severe, more severe.
Abhinandita, we've had NASA images that show that all of Punjab is covered even this year, and the severity of the farm fires, the numbers and the region covered is actually quite high. But the reason I asked you about the pattern is because what will be troubling a lot of people is that after the Supreme Court order, suddenly the farm fires came down. Suddenly we got visuals of, IP Singh, we can see the image that you're showing, which is of virtually all of Punjab covered in farm fires. Those red dots depict that, and those figures and those visuals, pictures are available to the citizens at large. We don't really need to continue to talk about it, but it's true that intensity is pretty high in Punjab. But the reason I asked you about the pattern is that when the Supreme Court gave an order, suddenly we saw the Punjab police in the fields. We got visuals for the first time this season that they're actually going out, stopping farmers from burning the parali, that there was greater compliance on the field. And Diwali comes and suddenly the farm fires rise again. So is this not a matter of political will? That you timed it after the Supreme Court's order, by you I mean the AAP government in Punjab, so that they're not upset. And when you thought the eyes will go away from the farm fire situation, Diwali has come, people will burn crackers, now it's okay to burn parali again. Is this not this case?
Not at all. That is not the case at all. In fact, from the beginning of this season, the Punjab police and the Punjab administration have been trying their best to control this. Now the phenomena is such, the problem is such that it is so deep rooted in the culture of agriculture that the provision of alternatives is being provided to the farmers, but slowly, and that is the reality. Now, as far as the reduction in for the few days, part of the reason for that was also the festivities. I think that is perhaps what one can attribute. Having said that, there were Supreme Court bans in other states as well, and it is very unfortunate that none of the implementing agencies are being able to actually implement the ban, because the Supreme Court perhaps also understands or will understand that this is not something that is being able to be resolved overnight.
No, so I want to get two things very clear. You are saying the dip in the farm fires was not because of Punjab government's proactiveness after the Supreme Court order. It just happened to be great timing, and farmers were no longer burning parali, and suddenly around Diwali they started burning parali again because it's according to their time convenience. I find that very revealing if you are accepting that yourself. And secondly, there has been an order for all states, but the numbers of farm fires in those states to begin with is not comparable to Punjab, so which is why we have to focus on Punjab. The numbers in Haryana and UP were like less than 100 even before the Supreme Court order. But let me go to RP Singh on the issue you raised, which is that this is a long-term problem and it will be resolved over a long period. RP Singh, there needs to be patience. This is a pattern that has emerged in Punjab due to many, many reasons, and no government can just come and wish it away or wave a magic wand.
Okay. Now let me just make you hear one clip of Mr. Kejriwal last year.
हमारी सरकार है, पंजाब में पराली जल रही है, हम किसानों को दोष नहीं देते, किसान जिम्मेदार नहीं है, हम जिम्मेदार हैं। आज पंजाब में अगर पराली जलेगी हम जिम्मेदार हैं। हम जिम्मेदारी को समझते हैं, अपनी जिम्मेदारी को मानते हैं। केवल एक चीज मांग रहे हैं जनता से, अभी 6 महीने हुए हैं, समस्या बहुत बड़ी है, कई सालों से चल रही है।
Your Central Minister, your Environment Minister is absent. Shall we play clips of your esteemed leaders or leaders who were earlier in the opposition?
Okay, Abhinandita ji, you had your opportunity. I'll give you again another opportunity, but let him speak. Let him speak, ma'am. Let him speak. Let him say, have his say, you respond to him.
To say. Where is the Environment Minister of India?
Okay, you made that point. Abhinandita ji, you made your point, but you mustn't speak over him, please, I request. Yes, RP Singh, please finish your point.
well, शिवानी हिंदी का गाना है वादा तेरा वादा वादे तेरे पे मारा गया ये किसान सीधा साधा. I mean, there's the problem. I mean, they promised farmers that we have some magical solution, and they spent some 23 crore rupees on publicity of that magical solution which they got from Pusa, and said that, oh, stubble will be taken care, you don't need to burn the stubble now. He also said that we are going to put plants and lot of factories there to convert the stubble into some other formula now. But where is all that? And again, you rightly said, farm fire has not come down. The number rather has gone up. It was only tactically staggered in a fashion that they can save their skin. Factors on ground, it is the same. The reason is that they are not serious and sincere about the issues and problems. Had they been serious and sincere, things could have been tackled. Have they thought of giving alternative crop pattern to the farmers? No. Have they planned what can be the new MRP and how can farmers make better profit from the other crops? No. They are not working on that. They only do photo ops, they only do publicity, they only do knee-jerk reaction. Parali is one big reason which is happening in Punjab, and I showed you the pictures also. The complete of the Punjab burning. Haryana is just minuscule of what is happening in Punjab today, because Haryana government has taken it head on and is working on it farm by farm. Not that they in Sangrur, let me give you another figure. In Sangrur, the maximum number of the farm fire is happening from Sangrur. That was 509 day for yesterday. I mean, imagine this. So someone has to take things head on, build up a long-term strategy, and also follow it up. I mean, they don't do that. They only do publicity. They only do some sort of tamasha, and then they forget it. Even in Delhi also, they are not sincere about what is the way. Give me another 5 seconds. The way pollution is generated from Delhi. Delhi needs 14,000 buses today. We only have 7,000 of them. Out of which 700 have been provided by the central government, the electric vehicles. When will we get more buses? Where is last mile connectivity? 8 years we have been hearing last mile connectivity. Where is last mile connectivity? Where is mechanical sweeping? I give a challenge. Where is mechanical sweeping? Where is the mechanical sweeping gone? Where is the industrial policy for the city?
False propaganda. Your seriousness
they don't do anything.
Your seriousness
about improving
public
transport,
on
all that tamasha, and they spend huge money, huge publicity on that, and then back to square one.
Okay, let me just come in. I don't want both of you speaking over each other. 1 second. There is an issue. There is a multiple level issue. Nobody is denying. But I want to go across to Debaditya also. You know, there seems to be a certain level of apathy. And I think the farm fire situation over the last 6-7 years have shown that actually, despite the fact that these politicians are breathing the same air, their children are breathing the same air, and I know that everybody believes that this is a problem and no person in Delhi should, be made to suffer this, but there is either because of vote bank considerations or because of just institutional apathy, no action which is taken on a war footing. Some knee-jerk reactions are there, promises are made कि हम 1 साल में कर देंगे, 2 साल में कर देंगे, and then nobody bothers. It's pure apathy.
Certainly, and I agree. Like, this episode of pollution is now a yearly phenomenon, and this crop burning issue has been there since last 7-8 years, at least what I remember. And whatever we see, I think the politicians have accepted this is a yearly phenomenon. The Supreme Court, like a principal, will come, says you did this, you did that, and they accept that, कि ये खत्म हो जाएगा, उसके बाद में everything will be subsided, then life will go on. But what matters is that whether there is enough political will. Now you spoke about the children of the politicians. See, people who are upper middle class, or even working class in Delhi, some people can afford air like this air filters at home. But what about the masses? Can they afford air filters? And these people are the most affected. And in all this discussion, we are not thinking about the people. We are not thinking about the environment. We are only doing politics. And I think this is the most disappointing thing about it, because whole year you didn't do anything, and this is a yearly phenomenon. You very well know that next year again this problem will happen.
Yeah.
And you also know that after 2-3 months everyone will be fine with it, and people have accepted this thing. So this is what I see, because solutions exist. I think you need enough political
You
will
need
to-
political will to do it. Abhinandan Mathur, I want to give you another opportunity. You have made promises in Punjab before, when you came to power or before you came to power in Punjab. Why should anyone believe that now you are sincere about it, when earlier you used to blame Punjab? Arvind Kejriwal has been on record to say, "Hum ek saal mein kar denge." What is that the Punjab government did all year round? Of course, you can't solve this problem in 2 weeks when it's already on your head. You have to solve it all year round.
You know, Shivani, I will speak very candidly, and I speak also as a citizen of this region, as somebody who is also affected and responsible for the pollution at hand. Look, as you also understand that the parali burning is a sort of a problem of agriculture right now. It is a deep-rooted problem. If we could, it would have stopped overnight. But unfortunately, as is with many other things, whenever a policy comes into place, firstly, when the political will is there, there is a policy that comes into place. And then any policy, however good or bad it may be, takes a while for it to actually get, percolate in the system, actually reach its beneficiaries, actually get adopted by the stakeholders. That is one. There is absolutely no reason for us to not implement it or to not have the political will for it, because that is, there is no government, there is no political party which would want to work otherwise. As far as Delhi, for example, is concerned, we have been working year long. It's not good enough, but we've shown slight improvements, whether it is leading the electric vehicle policy, whether it is actually increasing the wet number of wetlands and so on. Similarly, in Punjab as well, and I'm saying this very honestly, I'm saying it myself that
it's not enough.
Happened is not enough.
Okay, but when you talk about the issue of agriculture, we've been trying to discuss this. When you talk about the issue of agriculture, I agree with you that yes, this is a deep-rooted problem. But shouldn't the state government be at the forefront in Punjab of talking to the farm unions, farm groups that you have supported in the past? They should be listening to you.
Absolutely.
Why are you not pushing them for crop pattern change?
And that is where, for example, we have made 4,500 people who are like Kisan Mitra, friends of Kisans on the ground to. But despite all this, if there is a failure in the sense that, there is the options that are being made available to them are slow to trickle in, it's slow for a policy to be actually adopted by the stakeholders.
Okay.
It is
at least you are candid enough to accept that whatever has been done so far hasn't really worked on the ground. Yes, RP Singh, you want to respond to that?
Some things have, and a lot more needs to be done. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, RP Singh.
Well, they keep telling lies again and again. They say that Delhi mein pollution 25% kam ho gaya. Delhi pollution has come down by 25%, which is all false and which is all fabrication. Fact is, Delhi all year long suffer from pollution except one month of rainy season, which is July. All year long it is 200 plus. आपको रोका क्या? 200 से ऊपर रहता है सारा साल. 50 के ऊपर जहर है. 50 के ऊपर जहर है. बच्चों के लिए जहर है. बड़ों के लिए जहर है. 50 के ऊपर जैसे पोल्यूशन जाता है ऊपर. और दिल्ली के अंदर अगर आपको ईस्टर्न वेस्टर्न कॉरिडोर दिया तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने दिया. दिल्ली के अंदर अगर प्रगति मैदान से नोएडा का अंडरपास दिया तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने दिया. वसंत विहार से अगर अंडरपास दिया गुड़गांव तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने दिया. अगर धोला कुआं का क्लॉगिंग क्लियर की तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने की. और दिल्ली के अंदर बसेस दे रही है तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट दे रही है. Your government only do publicity, false publicity, and nothing else more than that.
Time has come when Delhiites also begin to think about this, because this is ultimately about all of our future, and we have a very special report on that as well. The impact of this high levels of pollution on even unborn children. But I want to give Devadatta final 30 seconds. What would you like to see happen? Devadatta, 30 seconds.
So, I think the implementation is with the government. It is not the role of the Supreme Court or any other court to dictate it. So, and we have to be a little bit proactive. And in last 6-7 years, we have been only reaction. Like you have seen only reaction on only optics in the language of the policymakers. They are doing only optics. We have to think beyond politics, and we have to take real action on the ground, and we have to engage with the stakeholders for year round. Because we know this problem is coming every year. So we can't be silent and wait for it to happen, and then we will make a noise. So
absolutely. And the impact it's having on our health, present generation, future generation, should really make both politicians, governments and citizens think. I do thank our guests for joining us. Here's a special report that even as residents of NCR are combating these high levels of pollutions, they're using masks and air purifiers. One horrific fact which is coming to light is this, that actually there's been an increase in the number of miscarriages that are being reported due to this pollution. My colleague Shireen Elizabeth is bringing you this report. Thanks a lot for watching.
Air pollution has been long linked with complications among pregnant women. But is pollution, which has now become an annual occurrence, has this increased these complications and led into an increasing number of infertility and miscarriages among women? We spoke to a number of experts and doctors who have been suggesting that on ground it seems that the cases of miscarriages and infertility have only doubled due to pollution. What can be done in this situation? What are the advices from the experts? We have been speaking to some of them. Here is what they have to say.
There has been a significant increase in the number of miscarriages that we are seeing. Not only miscarriages, the number of babies who are born low birth weight. There is an alarming increase in that.
Last 10 days, if you will ask me, almost I have gotten 4 or 5 females who were pregnant and completely asymptomatic pregnancy, and they have started having spotting and bleeding without any reason. So in a way, obviously we know air pollution is a risk for miscarriage, so they are having symptoms.
It is a well-known fact that pregnant women and children are the most vulnerable category when it comes to pollution. Listen into some of the measures that can be taken to avoid these situations.
Pregnant women don't step out when it is early morning or late, but when the sun comes out, you need to step out, right? You do need the sun also, right? And what are the things that you can do different is obviously you try to eat healthy. That really helps. You try to eat nutrient rich food. That really helps to improve. See, we need to basically boost up our immunity. Do breathing exercises sitting at home. Do the stretches and other things that can be done. And I say, when you are not doing anything, try to look at ways where you can create a better environment for the next generation. We are all going to exist and go away, but what are we going to leave for our children is what we should be questioning ourselves. And I tell them, please work on that, and everybody come up with a single idea and come with it through the day, through the year, not just on one day.
Co-powered by.
Visibility is not as bad as it was expected. The AQI out here in the national capital remains to be in the very poor category, although the measures of GRAP 4 has been implemented. But yes, the manner in which the order of the Supreme Court of not bursting crackers was flouted by several people out here in the national capital, that has made sure that the AQI deteriorates yet again. But if you compare the AQI that is today, the very next day post Diwali, with the yesteryears, you can actually see that the AQI is not as bad as it was expected, and in fact it has somewhere or the other been better than what it was last year at this time around. Also, what we have seen that yes, there were several people who had flouted the norms and had gone ahead and busted crackers through the night on the day of Diwali. But yes, today the AQI has definitely deteriorated, but it is not as bad as it can be seen. On the other hand, we have seen a lot of politics that has already started to happen in this entire matter. The opposition leaders are already coming on record and putting blame on the BJP leaders because they were the people who instigated people to go ahead and burst these crackers. So yes, the political blame game has already started. But if you speak about the AQI has definitely deteriorated post Diwali, but it is not as bad as it was over the last many years, right after the day of Diwali. Currently, I am reporting from Akshardham Temple, where I could just show you in the visuals around here that yet again today a cloud of smog has yet again engulfed the national capital. Remember, over the weekend we saw that there were spells of rain, which meant that the AQI in the national capital had improved significantly. But post Diwali, yet again we are seeing that the AQI in the national capital has yet again deteriorated. The main reason behind this is being said to be the manner in which the norm